This is the thing I was going to say. The direct action, as I said at the beginning, is this is a democratic process. This is the cornerstone of democracy. And a few years ago, I was demonstrating at the Docklands Arms Fair, and we pulled a few strokes. The Docklands Arms Fair every 2 years, and a few years back, this was about 8 or 9 years ago, me and my mates found out where the arms dealers were staying in this hotel near Tower Bridge, and we dressed up some women friends of ours in really smart clothes, and got these laminated cards, and they went into the arms fair, to the foyer of the hotel, about 8:30 in the morning, just as the arms dealers are finishing their breakfast. And these women stood there with these laminated cards that said, "Complimentary bus shuttle service to the arms fair. Inquire here." Now, we didn't think it would work. We just did it for a laugh, just to see if it would. But loads of people suddenly started coming up going, "Is it a free ride?" "Yes, it is." "Well, because they're lords of the world, they expect it." "Is it free?" "Yes, it's free, come aboard." Now, we've actually hired a bus. Now, I hasten to add, we didn't think this would fucking work. Right? So we've hired a bus, and I'm with my mate who's called Martin. He's a very tall lad. He looks like Eric Morecambe, but a fighter. But and he was doing some camera work for us. And so all these people are suddenly, these arms dealers are suddenly coming to the bus, and we go, "What the fuck do we do with the bus? What the fuck?" And he just went, "Let's drive him to Kent." I was like, "No, no." We said we'd give them a lift. We have to take them to the arms fair. So what we did was we drove them halfway towards the arms fair, halfway through the arms fair. Martin turns around, big camera, puts it on all the arms dealers, and I get on the microphone and go, "Welcome towards the bus shuttle service that's travelling to the arms fair. We're travelling at a height of about 2 feet above the ground at the moment. Now you'll be arriving in approximately 10 minutes. However, we have a request to make. You are members of the arms dealers, and consequently you are actually responsible not just for death, mayhem and torture, but actually for the debt that incurred from the Iraqi people. You sold weapons to Saddam Hussein, the dictatorship. These weapons were underwritten by a British department called the Export Credit Guarantee Department, which actually makes sure the insurance for sales abroad is covered. So when Saddam Hussein didn't pay up for the guns, the British taxpayer paid for the weapons. We paid for the guns that Saddam Hussein used to actually repress his own people. That debt that gets transferred to the Iraqi people are still paying that debt off now, because we sold guns to them for their own repression. Now, we know you feel very guilty about that, all these arms dealers here. We know you feel guilty about that, so we're passing around a plate, collecting money to raise your arm. We took the plate round, we got £10.50. And one bloke from Italy turned to me and said, "I would give you money, but you are like the mafia." So anyway, we got a little bit of, it's like, and we weren't allowed in towards Dicey because the police had their ring of steel, or rubber or whatever. And we got to, so we were about a mile out from the arms fair, and we had to stop. And I said, "This is as far as we can take you." And they said, "But you said you'd take us all the way." I said, "I'd love to, but the police have stopped us. You'll have to walk." They said, "Yes, that means you have to walk a mile." I said, "I know." "Through all the protesters?" "Yeah." So rather emboldened by that, myself and some friends, we decided we'd stop a bus full of BAE Systems arms dealers by locking on to the axle. And so we got some hippies, we chucked them at the front, but they're nice. They're nice. These are free-range hippies. They were released after the action. There was no harm done to them. And they stopped the bus. We got underneath and attached ourselves to the axle with bicycle D-locks and our necks, which was, to be honest, we rushed the planning meeting. Which becomes really apparent when you're under. They go, "Fuck, we've hurried this, haven't we?" So eventually we were taken out and arrested, and it was my first time ever getting arrested. And so I've got mates of mine who are activists who are just sending me texts going, "Well, hey, you've lost your cherry." This is really unhelpful. This is really unhelpful at this point in time. So, I was taken out from the bus by an officer, and there's a helicopter in the sky, and there's a boat by the Thames, in the Thames zone. There's about 3 or 4 vans, and about 17, 18 cops. And I said, "Blimey," and he said, "They're all for you." And it was my one moment of bravery, because I just went, "For me? Why have you got a boat in the Thames? You might try and make a break for it." And I said, "Oh, look at me, I'm a fat dad, it's not Free Willy." And that was it. I sort of caved in after, and it was really fun. As I was walking past my mates, I was like, "Quick, clench fist photo," and I was like, So I get put in the van, and I'm sitting next to this cop who's very sweet, he's a very polite guy, very nice guy, and I'm sat next to him, and he just went, "Is this your first time?" And I said, yeah. He said, don't worry, I'll be gentle on you. He said, it's paperwork, don't worry, you'll breeze it, you'll be fine. I said, thank you. Half of me is thinking, he's a really nice man. Half of me is thinking, this is the quickest recorded case of Stockholm Syndrome ever. So I'm sitting there, and I've got a mate of mine who's on the action called Bobby, and Bobby's one of these geezers who's kind of all instinct. And they're good. People with all instinct are good on actions. And from the back of the bus, he suddenly, this voice comes, this is Bobby's voice, he goes, "Officer!" And he says it in that way that isn't about friendly communication. "Officer," and the cop goes, "Yeah?" He goes, "I've got a question." The cop goes, "Please feel free to ask it." He said, "It's a rhetorical question, which means I'm not actually basing it." He goes, "I know what it is." All the other cops have turned around and started to look down the bus at this point. And he goes, "I've got this question." And I said, "Go on, son, ask the question. There's quite some tension in the bus." And my mate Bobby just goes, "If I phoned up the arms fair and said, 'There's a bomb in the building,' would it technically speaking be a hoax call?" So the cop turned round and one of them went, "Well, it depends if it's got a detonator in it." And suddenly I'm sitting there just going, I'm supposed to be getting nicked, not an engineering workshop. So this is a bit that I wrote. The London gathering of the arms dealers for their trade fair down at the Docklands is called Dicey by protester, the bastardinisation of its acronym. It is self-mockingly referred to by Brinley Saltzman from the Defence Manufacturers Association, which is the arms dealers' trade body. He self-mockingly refers to it as a biannual bloodfest. But organisers prefer to call it the Defence Systems and Equipment International. It is held in the Excel Centre, a concrete box of an exhibition hall whose designers mistook grandeur for size for grandeur. 1,000 companies exhibit at Dicey. Military delegations from between 50 to 80 countries turn up to visit, and some 25,000 folk pass through the turnstiles to gawk and buy. However, amongst arms dealers who travel the world hawking their wares, Dicey has a rather unique reputation. Apparently, it attracts more protesters than any other arms fair in the world. And I might proudly add that an industry insider informed me that by and large, we have a much better class of protester too. Though I should point out, my source then went on to qualify this statement with this story. This was the story an arms dealer told me. He said, at a defence event in Australia, the antis, the protesters, turned up with a huge papier-mâché penis with loads of protesters inside it. So there was this huge pink thing which they called the penis of peace out on the streets as part of the demonstration. The demonstration's carrying on, the penis of peace is part of it, when suddenly the penis breaks away from the main demo and charges at the main door of the defence fair. Unbeknownst to the police, inside the penis of peace is a battering ram. So the penis of peace charges at the doors, breaks through the doors and gets into the fair. Whereupon the protesters jump out from under the penis and start running around the place causing chaos. More than that, all the protesters are naked and covered in olive oil and security had a bugger of a time getting I'll read you a couple of bits from this and then we'll have to break up for the groups. The other year I went rambling on Israel's barrier around the West Bank, and I attempted to walk the entire length of the barrier, walking on both sides, talk to people. I figured what better way of finding out about a conflict about land and identity than by walking and talking. Lots of people, I still don't quite know why I did it. It was 723 kilometres long when it's finished. It surrounds the Palestinian West Bank. It's a military barrier, and it cuts into the West Bank, taking land away from the Palestinians. Nearly 10% of the West Bank goes to the Israeli side of this war. It's a demographic land grab, which is why in 2004, the International Court of Justice ruled that the route of the wall was illegal. Now, having attempted to do it, there was lots of people ask me, why did you do it? And part of the reason is that any military barrier, whether it's Hadrian's Wall or the Great Wall of China, any military barrier in this planet is frankly just a tourist trail waiting to happen at some point in the future. So I just wanted to do this one before it went mainstream. So there's that reason. Somebody asked my wife, why is Mark walking the length of the wall, using the wall as his route, and she said because he can't read a map. Which is true. This is true. I've got a lovely boy called Charlie who's supposed to be here tonight, and he's 16, and he has the best map reading story. We went rambling in Devon. It was in Cornwall, Robert, with a family, and I was trying to find a stone circle, and it was raining, and everyone was a bit pissed off, and my son Charlie said, "Dad, you may know where we are, you may not know where we are, but a good map reader knows when his family's had enough." It's a little fucker, actually. But you know, the thing is, you know, because he's 16, and obviously I adore him, but you know, and because obviously mischief and comedy has a high currency in our house, so you know. What happened was, I was asked to do, this chap who I know who runs this amazing charity where he gets doctors from the poorest regions of the world to be trained to highest international standards. So the poorest regions get the best doctors, which is a fucking brilliant thing. And he does a whole load of stuff, helping fund the Burns unit in Gaza and working on the West Bank. He's a lovely chap, and he looks like he fought in World War II, but I think he did. And he said to me, he said, would you mind doing a little benefit and a fundraiser for me? And I like the stuff he does, so I said, what is it? He said, it's after dinner speaking. And I said, look, I don't really do after dinner speaking. And he looked at me and went, eh. I said, oh, look, I'll make it work. I'll do something. We'll make it work. That'll be fine. Where is it? He said, the House of Lords. So I did a gig in the House of Lords. And it was just, the first thing, I got up there with my little book and said, right, before we get going, it's lovely to be here before we abolish her. And so what I did was, before I went, I didn't read the invitation properly, and it said dress casual lounge, and I haven't really got casual lounge, but I have got a rather nice Crombie with a nice little velvet collar, a nice bit of schmutter on the inside, red lining, got a nice stay press, nice button down, a couple of, you know, pair of loafs, looking quite fucking smart, I thought. I go downstairs, my son goes, "You look like you're going to a funeral." I said, "I'm actually going to do a speech at the House of Lords." He said, "A funeral for your own dignity." And half of you goes, "That's fucking brilliant." And the other half goes, "Right." So anyway, so I did this walk around the West Bank. I'll read you a couple of bits from it. And this is, the first bit is about, when we started, it was really fucking, we never thought we'd get it, because we kept on getting stopped by the army, and we kept on, the Palestinians didn't really have much of a concept of what we were trying to do, because rambling's not big on the West Bank. And this, I'll read you a couple of pages from this bit. "We have had 3 different Palestinians walking with us in as many days, and it's beginning to feel more like a course in management than rambling. Part of the problem is that rambling is not a popular Palestinian pastime on the West Bank. A stranger, a young kid, approached me and said, 'What is this?' Because I was holding my walking stick. My mother-in-law gave me this beautiful walking stick. It's an aluminium lightweight, 3-part retractable, sprung-loaded, double-headed, Kevlar-handled affair. I rather like it. I'm walking along with it. This young Palestinian kid comes and goes, 'What is this?' I said, 'It's a walking stick.' 'What is it for?' 'It helps me walk.' 'Do you not have a car?" So it seems that on the food chain of transport, walking goes beneath boy with donkey. We set out from a place called Al-Matullah, which is up in the north. I am equipped with everything needed to ramble, from boots to bobble hat, for the walk over the hilly farmland. Matt, that's his nickname, is our first Palestinian guide. He turns up in a sky blue shirt with thin white stripes, a dark blue 2-button blazer, grey slacks and slip-on shoes. I'm dressed to hike. Matt is dressed to open the bar on a Sunday lunchtime at the British Legion. I say, "Are those shoes going to be okay?" And he says, "They are fine, I have walked before you." Slightly worried, I said, "Have you got any water for the journey?" He says, "I do not need any. As long as I have cigarettes, I am fine."